When people talk about gaming, the spotlight usually falls on massive AAA blockbusters or tiny indie darlings. But sitting right in the middle is a sweet spot, the AA games. These are the underdogs with smaller budgets, but they punch way above their weight with creativity, risk-taking, and pure passion. Today, we're counting down the top 10 best AA games of all time. The ones that proved you don't need billions to deliver unforgettable experiences. From haunting adventures and punishing boss fights to survival epics and fan-favorite cult classics, this list is packed with games that redefined what AA really means. Stick around till the end, because our number one pick didn't just raise the bar, it might be one of the greatest games ever made, period. 10. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Kicking off the list is a game that showed just how far a mid-budget studio could go. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is more than just a game, it's an experience. Ninja Terry crafted a haunting journey that tackles themes of grief, trauma, and psychosis with a level of respect and detail rarely seen in the industry. The motion capture and binaural audio design pulled players straight into Senua's mind, making every whisper, every hallucination, and every shadow feel uncomfortably real. It blurred the line between AA and AAA, proving you don't need Hollywood money to create something unforgettable. Of course, not everything was perfect. Some players felt the combat grew repetitive, but even critics admitted the atmosphere and storytelling set a new standard for what AA games could be. And if you thought Hellblade was unique in how it pushed emotional limits, wait until you see the survival game at number 9, one that made swarms of rats scarier than any monster. 9. A Plague Tale: Innocence. At number 9, we shift from the Norse underworld to the grim reality of plague-ridden France. A Plague Tale: Innocence is the kind of game that sneaks up on you. A gritty tale of two siblings, Amicia and Hugo, trying to survive against impossible odds as the world crumbles around them. What made this game so remarkable wasn't just its stunning visuals or eerie atmosphere, but the way it mixed stealth gameplay with raw emotion. Every encounter felt tense, every moment with Hugo carried weight, and the endless swarms of rats weren't just enemies, they were living, breathing nightmares. Some players compared it to The Last of Us, and sure, the influence is there, but A Plague Tale carved out its own identity with its medieval setting and grounded, vulnerable protagonists. Its success was strong enough to spawn a much bigger sequel, Requiem, proving this was more than a one-hit wonder. And if you thought rats were terrifying in the Middle Ages, just wait until we move into modern America, where the real horror isn't rodents, but zombies. 8. State of Decay 2. Sliding into number 8, we've got a zombie survival sim that thrives on chaos and unpredictability. State of Decay 2, unlike most zombie games that throw you into non-stop action, this one forces you to think like a survivor. You're not just mowing down the undead, you're managing a community, building a base, and making tough choices about who lives, who dies, and how long your supplies will last. The kicker? Every character in your group is vulnerable to permadeath. One bad move, one mistimed decision, and you might lose a survivor you've grown attached to forever. That kind of tension made every encounter meaningful. Now, it wasn't all smooth sailing. At launch, the game was notorious for being buggy and unpolished, but through updates and community feedback, State of Decay 2 evolved into a cult hit, especially on Xbox Game Pass, where tons of new players gave it a shot. And speaking of updates, the next game on our list kept players waiting years for a major one, but when it finally landed, it made the whole experience shine. 7. Deep Rock Galactic. At 7, it's time to grab your pickaxe and shout rock and stone, because Deep Rock Galactic turned space mining into one of the most addictive co-op games out there. On paper, it sounds almost silly. Dwarves in outer space tunneling through procedurally generated caves, but once you dive in with friends, it clicks instantly. Every mission is a mix of exploration, teamwork, and absolute chaos. The caves shift and surprise you. Swarms of alien bugs keep you on edge, and success only comes if your squad sticks together. That balance of danger and camaraderie is exactly what gave the game its loyal community, one that turned a niche launch into a multiplayer hit through pure word of mouth. Sure, at first it flew under the radar, but thanks to consistent updates and an insanely dedicated player base, Deep Rock Galactic transformed into a cult classic, proving that teamwork and beer-drinking space dwarves really can go hand in hand. But if dwarves in space can unite players, what happens when you drop cowboys into a world overrun by the undead? 6. Days Gone. Rolling into number 6, we've got one of the most talked about PlayStation underdogs of the last decade, Days Gone. At first glance, it might look like just another zombie game, but once you hop on that bike and start cruising through Oregon's apocalyptic forests, it quickly sets itself apart. You play as Deacon St. John, a drifter trying to survive in a broken world filled with freakers, zombie-like hordes that don't just stumble around aimlessly. These things move in terrifying numbers, and when 100 of them are sprinting after you, it's pure panic in the best possible way. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Days Gone didn't exactly launch with universal praise. Reviews were mixed, with critics pointing to bugs and pacing issues. But over time, players discovered its charm. The bike maintenance, the open-world exploration, and the emotional weight of its story. Slowly, it grew into a cult favorite. Even today, fans keep rallying for a sequel, proving it struck a deeper chord than many expected. And if Deacon's motorcycle was the symbol of survival here, our next game takes motorcycles and cranks them into neon-lit, futuristic mayhem. 5. Ghost Runner. At 5, strap in for a heart-pounding plunge into neon-soaked skyscrapers. Ghost Runner blends cyberpunk style with breakneck, first-person sword combat. Every level is a test of precision, reflexes, and patience as you dash, wall run, and slash your way through deadly obstacles and enemies. The gameplay is fast like lightning, almost like speedrunning meets parkour, and the synthwave soundtrack keeps your adrenaline surging the entire time. One mistake and it's instant death, which makes every success feel incredibly satisfying. Now, the difficulty here sparked plenty of debate. Some called it brutally punishing, while others hailed it as the perfect challenge for players seeking skill-based combat. Regardless, mastering Ghost Runner is a rush unlike any other, proving that AA games can be just as thrilling as their AAA counterparts. And if you think Ghost Runner is tough, brace yourself. The next entry redefined what tough but fair really means, pushing players to the absolute limits of skill and strategy. 4. Cuphead. At number 4, prepare to have your reflexes tested like never before. Cuphead is a hand-drawn masterpiece that looks sweet and innocent, but will absolutely destroy your sanity. From the moment you start, the 1930s cartoon visuals and jazz soundtrack lure you into a world that feels cheerful, only to hit you with some of the most brutally creative boss fights in gaming history. Every battle is a learning curve, a mix of memorization, precision, and quick thinking. The difficulty is legendary. Some players rage quit, others fall in love with the challenge. But beyond the frustration, there's an undeniable charm and artistry that makes every victory feel earned. Critics and fans debated whether it was just too hard or a genuine work of art, but there's no denying Cuphead's impact. It's proof that a smaller-scale game can leave a massive impression. And if Cuphead punished you with bosses, get ready. The next entry punishes you with survival itself, in a world where every choice can mean life or death. 3. Valheim. Landing at number 3, Valheim came out of nowhere to conquer the hearts of survival fans everywhere. This Viking-themed survival game is an indie AA hybrid, blending procedural worlds, crafting, and base building with a sense of scale that feels far larger than its modest budget. Every journey into the wild is a mix of exploration, danger, and creativity. You're not just fighting mythical beasts, you're building, crafting, and shaping a world alongside a massive community of players who swapped stories, shared tips, and banded together to conquer the toughest challenges. Despite being in early access for years, Valheim kept its fan base hooked with consistent updates and expansions, proving that a game doesn't need a full AA budget to captivate millions. And while Valheim thrived on community, our next game thrives on something else entirely: raw, spine-chilling atmosphere that will leave you questioning every shadow. 2. Alan Wake. Coming in at number 2 is a psychological thriller that proved AA games can rival AAA in atmosphere and storytelling. Alan Wake from Remedy Entertainment drops you into the eerie town of Bright Falls, where darkness isn't just a backdrop, it's a weapon. Flashlight in hand, you fight shadowy enemies while unraveling a gripping page-turner narrative that feels more like a novel than a typical game. The original release flew under the radar, but fans knew it was special. With the remastered edition bringing updated visuals and smoother performance to modern consoles, new players finally got to experience why this cult hit has such devoted followers. And for fans of Remedy's universe, the connections to Control add another layer of intrigue, turning Bright Falls into a small but unforgettable corner of gaming history. Underappreciated at launch, Alan Wake is now widely considered ahead of its time, blending storytelling, atmosphere, and gameplay in a way few AA titles manage. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Our number 1 AA game isn't just a fan favorite, it's a phenomenon that redefined what a mid-budget masterpiece can achieve. 1. Hollow Knight. And finally, taking the top spot, it's Hollow Knight, the undisputed king of AA and indie crossovers. This game is a masterpiece of design, atmosphere, and sheer ambition, showing that a smaller budget doesn't mean a smaller experience. From the moment you step into the sprawling, interconnected world of Hollow Nest, you're immersed in deep lore, breathtaking hand-drawn environments, and a sense of mystery that keeps you exploring for hours. The boss fights are intense, the platforming tight, and every corner of the map feels alive with secrets waiting to be discovered. Fans have been eagerly awaiting Silksong, the sequel, and the community's anticipation only highlights how impactful the original was. Often called the greatest Metroidvania of all time, Hollow Knight proves that AA games can stand toe-to-toe with the biggest titles in the industry. From haunting journeys like Hellblade to survival epics, cyberpunk speedruns, and artful challenges like Cuphead, these 10 games remind us that mid-budget doesn't mean mid-quality. AA games can innovate, thrill, and create unforgettable experiences, and these titles are living proof. And there you have it, 10 incredible AA games that prove mid-budget doesn't mean mid-quality. From haunting psychological depths of Hellblade and Alan Wake to survival epics like Valheim and Days Gone, and artful challenges like Cuphead and Hollow Knight, each of these games delivers something unforgettable. From bugs and shadows to legendary journeys, these titles show that AA games can rival any blockbuster, blending innovation, storytelling, and gameplay in ways that leave a lasting impact on players. So next time someone underestimates a mid-tier game, remember this list. AA games aren't just filler. They're bold, creative, and sometimes even groundbreaking. Which one of these games is your personal favorite? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if we missed a classic AA gem, let us know, because the world of AA gaming is full of hidden treasures just waiting to be discovered.